Can everyone hear me in the chat? Give me a sec. Alright, let me pull up my camera and we'll go ahead and get started. Okie doke. Well, sorry for not going live earlier this afternoon. Something came up, so we had to go to that. But I am here now, and we're going to be talking about this tropical storm called Debby and her impacts for us in the Carolinas and Georgia. And we're going to be taking a look at the future outlook as well towards the end. This should not take long, probably about 15 minutes, so we'll get right to it. But first, of course, can't forget about the mosquito meter, of course. It's still summer, even though it's August. And tomorrow I am forecasting a high amount of mosquitoes to be out there. Let me pull up full screen. There we go. So the sun is setting on our area, and you can see those big puffy clouds that are out there. Those are cumulonimbus clouds, courtesy of some thunderstorms out there. And I'll actually pull up the infrared, which is another way of seeing this even at night. And oh, am I glitching? Someone told me. Oh. Am I back? I see. Is it like my audio and my video, or is it just one of them? Does it work now? I do see from my end on OBS I am a little bit slow. Okay. Audio and video. Okay. Let me try something with my camera real quick. Does that work? I'm trying to see. Okay, it looks better on my end. Is it better? Okay, I think it's better now. We're gonna have to power through it. Maybe it's tired. Well, okay. So back to the satellite, you can see the brighter colors, like the greens and the yellows and reds, or like, well, the warmer the colors are, higher and the higher the cloud tops are, and the colder they are. So that means they're usually stronger. And right now we have some cool colored cloud tops over here, so nothing too much out there. And if we look at the radar, which actually I won't be able to use radar omega, I'll have to pull it up from here. If we look at this radar, there are a couple little showers in there, probably a few rumbles of thunder with them. But here to the south, this is courtesy of Debby, and this is a little bit more potent. And we'll be talking about that in a little bit. But we'll look at the near term for now. And looking at the minimum temperature, or the low for tomorrow, we'll have some low 70s. And I'll actually make this a little bit closer. Okay, so low 70s for most of us, maybe mid 70s, where it's a little bit more warmer and more humid out there, especially where the outer bands of Debby are hitting. And let me also zoom this in. Okay. We can see that we're going to be cooler, and a little bit of a cooler air mass over here in the Carolinas and Georgia, because of Debby and the rain that she's bringing and the clouds. So a muggy day, but a little bit cooler, so I guess it's a little bit better. And yes, I see that I'm lagging. That's weird. I tried to lower the noise suppression, but I don't think that worked very well. Maybe it might be the tabs that I have open, and there are a lot, as you can see at the top of your screen, so that might be it. Maybe if I hide. Can everyone still understand me, or is it really bad? Let me try something else. Okay, it looks like maybe taking out the green screen background worked. Waving my hand, and it looks smooth on my end. I'm not sure about the audio. Okay. Okay, supposedly it's better that way. Well, okay, we'll have to keep pushing through then. I'll try to figure what's going on with that. But once again, back to the weather. Looking at those storms through the rest of the night here on the HRRR weather model, see a few little showers, probably with a few rumbles of thunder associated with them, across the western Carolinas and North Georgia, but then they will fizzle out through the overnight, and then some more start to fire. Here, this is 11 a.m. tomorrow. You can see those storms starting to bubble up again across the low country of South Carolina through eastern North Carolina and central Georgia. And let me see. The karate tree says it just loads for like 5 seconds and then the video and audio plays. That's pretty weird. That hasn't happened on past streams. Well, I guess as long as I'm still understandable, well, that will be okay. I'll keep an eye on the chat in case y'all give me any updates, but I'm gonna try and keep going. So we're gonna now be taking a look at the Debby part of this live stream. You can see right now we're looking at a sea surface temperature map, and if you know your geography a little bit, this is the Atlantic Ocean right here. This is the Caribbean Sea, and this is the Gulf of Mexico, which is still technically part of the Atlantic, but... And let me actually change the color for everyone. This is the Atlantic, and the Gulf, and the Caribbean Sea. And all these warm colors that you see, those are temperatures in the 80s to even lower 90s in some spots here, especially in the Gulf. And this is basically rocket fuel for these tropical systems. And Debby is right here, more or less. And it's going to track something like... Let me try that a little bit better. Something like that. And you can see it's going to be going in some very warm water. So that's going to help this system grow. Not by much, but a solid Category 1 hurricane is possible. For Florida and maybe even South Carolina if it can get enough steam before it gets back over land, because if you saw how I drew this, it's gonna do a little something like this. It's gonna go over Florida, then back over the water, and then once again to South Carolina. So if it can have enough time over that water, it might get back to Category 1 status, but right now, per the National Hurricane Center, this is probably not going to stay over the water that long, and that means that's not going to strengthen that much over that water. So at least that's some good news for us. And the beaches here in SC and Georgia. And now let's look at the satellite. This is the same satellite I showed you here for... The storm is ongoing right now. Same kind of satellite. This is infrared. And then this is infrared too. And once again, the bolder these colors are, the cooler and higher the cloud tops are. And hence that means that the storms are stronger. And you can see these storms spinning. And let me change the color again because that's the same. Maybe a teal will work. So the low pressure of Debby is somewhere in there. You see the storms are moving like this. And that means they're going counterclockwise or cyclonically, which is like that, with the going in the way the arrows are. And the storms firing over the center are pretty strong, and that means that Debby is going to be strengthening here. And you can also see the outer bands over here that are bringing tornadoes to Florida right now. And they're going to have it rough over there for the next few hours and into tomorrow as Debby gets closer to the Big Bend region, which is this part. If you don't know that region of Florida, this is the Big Bend, where the peninsula kind of bends into the panhandle. And that's where it's going to be moving in for tomorrow. And just a little disclaimer on the cone, which I'm going to show. I'm whipped up this little graphic for everyone using Alberto, which was the first storm of the season. And in case you might think that the cone means that's, if you're in it, that's only where you're going to get the heavy rain and the wind. That is not true, and the impacts can extend very far away from the storm's center, and You can see that here, and I can't draw on this, but if I can zoom in a little bit for everyone, and it's going to be blurry too, so the orange, and that's the picture in the middle, that's tropical storm force winds, or winds that are greater than 40 miles per hour, and you can see that they go way to the north of where the center of Alberta was, and extended all the way into the central Texan coastline. And you can see that the surge was a little bit farther north from that, so that was about 400 miles away. So even if the people that were in the cone were going to get some impacts, they weren't the only ones for sure. And just want to tell everyone that the cone isn't everything, so keep that in the back of your mind for sure. Now looking at the intensity guidance, this shows, each line shows what model thinks how strong the storm could get, and here for tomorrow morning, most of the models are in pretty good agreement that this will be a pretty strong tropical storm, probably maybe touching category 1 strength for a little bit, but as it goes over land weakens tropical storms, so that's not going to last for very long. And then maybe if it gets back over water, it will strengthen a little bit more, but like I said, it won't be as much time as what it has right now. So that's that, and this is the rainfall map, and you can see you got pretty historic rainfall amounts here for Hilton Head, Savannah, Georgia, Charleston. Some of the most popular beaches in South Carolina are going to be hit very hard by the heavy rainfall out there. And there's that bullseye of heavy rain over those beaches, where if you look at the key, anywhere from 16 to 20 inches, which is almost 2 feet of water, which can definitely sweep away you and your cars, even if it's a truck. So if you know anyone down there, please let them know they're vacationing or if they live there, to try to get to higher ground, especially if they are in a flood-prone area, for sure. And you can even see that Grenville County could get a little bit of rain, and that goes for the upstate and the Piedmont, which is this region of the Carolinas. You could get some rain out of this, but the cutoff will be pretty distinct, as these storms can be compact, meaning that it can go from very heavy rain to pretty much nothing. So I'll be showing you the cone now. This is the cone of uncertainty from the National Hurricane Center, which is the agency responsible for making these. And you can see the wind field, which is this orange blob that shows where the winds are tropical storm force. And you can see that's hitting the west coast of Florida right now. And this is probably going to strengthen into a hurricane before making landfall in the panhandle of Florida, which is this region right in here. This region to be more precise. And then track over South Georgia, and then, like I said, over water for a little bit. And then going back over South Carolina as a weaker tropical storm maybe. And you can see that this cone makes itself into a circle here towards the end. So it could go anywhere from something like this, or just keep going north or back over the water. And whenever the cone is this big, this means that the storm has lots of possibilities to go somewhere. And actually, let me say that again. If the bigger the cone is, the more uncertainty there is, even for the experts there at the National Hurricane Center. So we'll keep monitoring this as the cone shrinks and there's more agreement with the models and the experts on where this could go. But right now there is lots of unknowns for this storm as it tracks into South Carolina. Now talking about that rainfall again, this is the flash flood risk, which is the risk of a flood that occurs out of nowhere basically from heavy rain. And you can see there's a high risk, which is pretty rare here, especially for this area, and that stretches from the Big Bend of Florida through Georgia and into the beaches of South Carolina. And there's a moderate risk, which is also pretty uncommon, stretching from the outer banks of North Carolina through the Big Bend of Florida and into the a little bit of the peninsula as well. And even the yellows and greens, which is a lower risk, you still have to watch for flooding, and that includes us here in Greenville County and the upstate. So keep an eye on that, especially with the track of the low pressure. That could definitely create a significant difference between who gets the most rainfall out of this. Now looking at the spaghetti models, which look like spaghetti for sure from all the uncertainty, you can see most of them take them over the water again, and then maybe up into North Carolina, maybe through South Carolina. Like I said, no one really knows at this point just yet. But pretty good agreement that it's going to make landfall in Florida and then go into Georgia. But after that, like I said, no one really knows. Now looking at the ensembles, which is just one model that has 51 different variations of the starting conditions. So the European one, each one shows a slightly different beginning situation. So as long as these stay pretty close together, that means that there's good agreement on where this is going to go. And like the spaghetti models, this shows that this is probably going to make landfall in the Big Bend or Panhandle of Florida, then head through Georgia, and then they get all tangled and messy after that. And same with the American model ensembles, which have less members but still give you the general idea that this is going to go into Florida and then kind of just go everywhere after that, and it gets all crazy. And one last thing we're going to look at is one of the hurricane models, which only do hurricanes, and this one is one of the most accurate ones for now. This one had this pretty close to the strength it is now, so we're going to go with that. And you can see this storm taking on that shrimp look a little bit. And let me change the color again to something more visible. You can see a little bit of a shrimp look to this system, meaning that there's going to be a little bit of wind shear and dry air pushing the storms away from the center, which is this little L right there. And by the way, the lower this number is, the stronger this storm is. So this is probably going to be a solid Category 1 hurricane moving into Florida, and then going through Georgia, and then weakening, then re-strengthening, then goes back into South Carolina, and then kind of does some weird things after that. But you get the general idea. Now looking at the long-range outlook for this, for August, it shows some cooler and nicer weather for us coming in, courtesy of some cold fronts that are sure going to be welcome, and are going to give us a preview of fall towards the middle of the month. This is from the 10th through the 14th, Saturday through Wednesday. And this goes for basically most of the northern 2/3 of the country of the United States, with precipitation being drier in the mid-south and a little bit wetter here in our region of the Carolinas and Georgia, with the a little bit closer to the end of the month, a little bit of a warm up with still wetter conditions out there for sure. Okay. I'll take any questions anyone has for now. I'm gonna wrap this up since it is kind of late. So, in case you can't hear me very well, I'll type in the chat. Okay. And please put questions in there or feedback, especially because I kind of talk maybe a little bit fast or I kind of mix up my words. It might be hard to understand, so I can try to clear up any vocabulary terms for you if you need that, or any questions that you have. I'll answer it. Since it's now the end of the live stream, so drop them in the chat if you have any. I'm gonna give you a minute. Here, 9:10 will end the stream. Oh, apparently YouTube Studio told me that the audio was bad too. Didn't know that. That could do that. Also just saw we're going on half an hour, which I think is the longest I've done so far on the live stream. So, a little bit of a... I wouldn't say milestone, but something notable. Okay. Alright, it's 9:10. Well, thank you for joining, everyone. I'm gonna try and figure this green screen stuff out and see what's going on. But I'll keep it posted on Debby, and probably gonna have you an update tomorrow. I'm gonna see if it's live or not, but most likely a video. So, once again, thanks, and see you all tomorrow.